What is it?
Shell. Hello and welcome to The Essential Gamer. You're watching What Is It with me, Lee, and what it is, well, it's a Souls-like, believe it or not. I know, deceiving, isn't it? But it is. So you start off in this not Souls-like by having a body which is unnamed and unknown, and it's some sort of soul-y thing in a realm that doesn't make any sense, that is beyond life and death and all that sort of jazz. Straight off the bat, Mortal Shell is made by a small 15-person team, believe it or not, who have, I would say lovingly, homaged the Souls-like in every way, whilst adding their own particular spin to it. So one of the main gameplay additions here is that your shell, your being, can harden itself to the point where they're made of stone. I mean, this is a defensive tactic, and it's also a very good offensive tactic as well, to negate enemy attacks while you line yours up. It's an interesting addition, but not something that takes a lot of getting used to. It's quite easy to work out. So within the realms of the game, you play as again an unnamed soul-y thing. You will discover shells, which are bodies, and then you will inhabit said shell, making it your mortal shell. See, there we go, he said it. And after you've inhabited said shells, you can then wade into battle like a madman with all of the skills of a disjointed goat like me, because I'm not very good at these games. But what I will say is that the combat is responsive. It does all the things you want it to do. There's a lock-on, which is highly important in this kind of game, so you can focus on who you're fighting. And it's the typical sort of Soulsian, lead them out one at a time, piss off the bloke on the banjo type affair. The combat itself, it's fairly intuitive. You've got a light attack, a heavy attack, a dodge. There is things like parry, there's the harden ability, and all of these come together in quite a nice fashion. It feels very similar. If you're a fan of Dark Souls, Bloodborne, The Purge, Nier, blah 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 blah, all of those other Souls-likes, you're going to really like this one as well, because it feels in keeping. In fact, it could possibly be a Souls 4. With the addition of having these different fighting mechanics, there is also the mechanic of being knocked out of your shell. And that's not just a saying that we say over here, it's literal, because you get blasted out of your shell, and then you are rendered as a one-hit wonder. So this is where my forte comes in, because you get your shell back and you fucking leg it. And whilst we look at me running like a scared wee baby, you'll notice that the levels are labyrinthian and lengthy. It feels like a From Software designed level structure, but it's not. It's Playstack London. And whilst it may resemble most of the Soulsian stuff that you do recognise, there's also a great deal of character in the world itself. I'm actually very impressed with the story it's trying to tell in, typical Souls fashion. And I'm also impressed with the difficulty, because you're gonna die all the time. But when you're not dying, you can practice on your loot. You can get your loot skills up there, so you can shred with the best of them. Or why not have a little chat with a giant toad about the music that everyone else is playing and how they don't actually appreciate it. Or you can go and find some lore elsewhere, reading messages and things like that. None of them make sense, but then in this type of game, when has any message written on a wall made sense? And in the meantime, you can just take a look around. Now, the textures and the graphics themselves have been downgraded from the PC version I tried. There's a little bit of pixelation on the light effects and the flames and that sort of thing. It looks a little bit untidy up close, but generally I'm happy with the way it looks. It's very green, it's very dark, but there's enough in here to interest you. So with your shell and this lady here, you unlock the name of your shell, and then you can upgrade it, and then you can go and get new weapons, you can upgrade your weapons, you can unlock a skill tree within each body, each shell, which gives them particular abilities over the other shells, so it encourages you to swap out. And after you've done that, I say you'll find your weapons, and you can use an interesting another mechanic in the game, insight, where you're able to look into the ether and find out some information that it may not have been clear straight away, like paths to go and weapons to find. And as I say, when you find your weapons, you take them to a crafty table. You can upgrade different stuff. There's special maneuvers which are unlocked this way. So, for instance, the Hallow Sword will unlock that one. That will do a special maneuver with an L1 and an R1. And you can add to this by unlocking more and more for each weapon as you get them. And it's fairly comparable. You know, there's up to 5 levels in each one. And after you've unlocked them, you will be super powered and ready to go and battle anything. But like all games of this ilk, you need to take your time just to make sure that you've got the right equipment, you're going the right way. You can use some more insight to make sure that you're aware of up and coming enemies and obstacles and things to dodge, and then when you do eventually find a shell that suits you and you feel a little bit more equipped, you can go and take on some big stuff. Nah, it's very similar in the way that all the bosses are huge. The ones you think are the bosses at first are not the bosses, they're simply an amuse-bouche, a taster, if you will, of what is to come. Like this Grisha here, who's very scary and very big, and took me quite a long time to fight and defeat, using my special maneuvers. One of the things I will say is there's lots of flashy effects, there's lots of really good weighty special moves, and the fighting and the combat itself feels a lot more grounded than some of the other ones that I've played, like Hellpoint for instance. That felt terrible. If I had to compare the two, this is leaps and bounds above. And it's not a slight on Hellpoint, it's obviously made by a different team altogether, but there's a lot more love in this one, I feel. So generally you're going to be crawling through tunnels, making your way to new secret locations, and you'll think at points that you've unlocked something magic, and then the linearity of the levels becomes clear, because actually you've circled round for the last half an hour to the place you just was. Yep, that's the same Grisha I was just fighting, and just for shits and giggles, when you re-enter the area, his life bar fills back up. Excellent news! Just what you wanted to hear. Refillable life bars, wonder bar, excellent, yay, fun. This is certainly a game that exists in the realm of get good, and if you don't get good you get frustrated, but I'll tell you now, you can't kill the lady that talks to you. I've tried. So Mortal Shell is out on the 18th of August on all platforms. If you enjoy a Souls-like, then you will definitely enjoy this. I see no reason for you not, even if it is a little bit too similar for some people's tastes. Of course, if this video is any good to you, please do like and subscribe, and if not, tell me why. I'll throw myself out of my shell and go and talk to the Grisha once more. Until next time, goodbye.